Hey everybody, how you doing? It's Milton Spence with Well-Rounded Consultant. I'm here with the lovely Miss Phil and Kiera Winters. They are the couple I have on today because of the fact I want to discover how does authenticity within self help each other in the marriage. Phil and Kiera, how we doing today?
Doing great.
Good. Okay, so all right, so I'm gonna open up the floor to both of you guys, man. Y'all let me know. Just go for what you know. Tell us who you are. Tell us how to find you and everything like that.
Okay, go ahead, baby.
All right, my name is Phil. I am a motivational speaker. I also do music production. I also do editing. I do a lot of different things, but my main hat that I wear is music production and motivational speaking. You can find me on Facebook and 2 locations. I do have a page called Inside Us, that is spelled ENDSIDEUS, Inside Us. Where the concept is everything starts and ends inside of us. And then I also have a page that is my most popular page, that is Dow Tone Producers page, where I produce urban line dance, community music, skating, stepping, line dancing, you name it.
Okay, so I am Kiera Winters, and I am a certified committed yoga instructor. Also, I am a intuitive reader. So I have an Instagram page, Facebook. It's all Kiera Yogini. That's KIERA YOGINI. And I have been certified since 2016? Mm-hmm. Certified to teach yoga since 2016. And I have been intuitively reading people for only a couple of months, but it's a gift, so it just comes naturally. So I'm able to read your whole soul if you if you email me at kieriayogini@gmail.com.
Your whole soul.
Oh. Yeah. If you're in reading or getting a private committed yoga session, I offer those as well.
Okay, cool. So you heard everybody heard you, they heard what you do. Now those things that you do, I have a firm belief that the things that you do, who you are, is also tied into how you are and what you are, and everything is always working in together. But the fact is, you guys got married, right? Being exactly who you are. Tell us a little bit about that story.
Go ahead. You
What? Okay, so I haven't always been on this journey that I'm on now. So I didn't start this journey until 2015. So I met Phil. Well, I didn't even meet Phil. Since he produced his music, I was a roller skater. Like, I grew up roller skating. And so at the time, I was going skating like maybe 3 or 4 times a week. And we would always skate off of this particular song. It's like when this song played, everybody would just run to the skate floor and just, and I would always hear him drop his name in the song, Dow Tone Producer, but I didn't pay it no attention. So that's how I knew of him. So the way we actually met was through your picture just went away.
That's fine.
Oh, I didn't know. So the way we actually met was on Facebook. I was in this group called Skatebook for a lot of roller skaters, and you was in the group. Somebody added you in the group. Tim Jones added you in the group, and you had been down here to Atlanta, and you had saw the way people in Atlanta skate. So he decided to post in this group with like 5,000 skaters talking crap about how people in Atlanta skate. So me, I had to go. I had to go cuss him out real quick. So he got mad and deleted himself out the group. Man, them skaters crazy. So when I realized who I cussed out, I was like, oh, I think that's Dow Tone Producer. We skate off of his music. Let me send him a friend request real quick. So then I added him as a friend. And so I didn't say anything to him because I added you in the summer of 2011 because your birthday came around and everybody was happy birthday. So I never said nothing to you, and we was friends on Facebook for like 2 or 3 months. And then I think around September, you posted this post, and it was very thought-provoking. So I'm like, because I never really saw you in my news feed But when you did post, it was always something like how you post now, like always thought provoking. So I commented on it because I felt like you were smart. So I think I said hi or something like that. What did I say to make us start talking? Because you told me to ease on down the road to Chicago.
No, that was
because he is from Chicago, y'all.
That was a post that you put up about
the Wizard of Oz.
The Wizard of Oz, yeah, something about the yellow brick road.
Yeah, and that's when you had said that.
And you were saying something about how you couldn't find a man or something because
no, I don't think it
was something to the degree that she was making a reference to no good men being like flying monkeys or something.
And you know, and the crazy thing
is, you said something like so I don't remember exactly the words was, but you was like, I'm looking for so and so, but I keep getting flying monkeys, and I was something like, well, you need to ease on down here. Go to Chicago.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is, my friend, I just talked to him the other day, Tariq. Mm-hmm. He inboxed me and he said, "Yo, put this status up on Facebook." So it wasn't even my status. I just put it up on Facebook for Tariq, and he thought I was talking about me. I was like, "Nah, like or whatever." But when he spoke to me, I was like, "Oh, okay." So then we started inboxing and stuff like that. No, I didn't. I said, "Hey," a couple of weeks later. I finally said, "Hey," and then you said, "Hey." And then, so we was on your public page. And then I wanted to ask you about your kids and stuff because I figured out you had kids. So we started inboxing. Because initially, I didn't want a man with kids because, you know, I didn't have any. So I want to know the dynamic of his kids because basically, do you have baby mama drama? Basically. So when we started talking in the inbox, I found out he had custody of the kids and stuff like that. I was like, okay, so I kind of let my guard down a little bit. And then, but when we started talking, it's like we fell in love fast because we started talking in September or late October, somewhere in there. And you came down here to meet me in December. And I went to Chicago in January. And in February, we got married.
Yep. So
wow.
And 4 months later, we was married.
Yeah.
So love at first sight is a thing.
I guess you could. I don't know if it was love at first sight. I just think
it was good chemistry.
It was. I
think both of us came from a previous relationship that didn't go well.
Right.
And we both knew in that moment that I don't want this anymore. And so it's like when you go through some kind of tough relationship, you learn like, okay, this is what I want, this is what I don't want. I learned that from my first marriage, and you did too.
I did too, yeah.
So when we finally met, we knew mentally where both of us were that, you know, we can stay together for a long period of time. And I was like, man, we might as well get married because I'm not going to find nobody else that thinks so.
I felt the same way too because by me being a roller skater, I felt like I couldn't take a lot of guys in that community serious. You know, I dated a couple guys in that community. I actually moved out of state when I dated somebody in that community, and it wasn't what I wanted to be. And I had just came out of my first marriage. And so when the first boyfriend I had after my divorce, and, you know, when I figured out that he wasn't what I wanted, I was like, nah, I'm not gonna waste my time. Yeah, I think it was like a 6-month relationship or something like that. And so I was like, I'm not finna waste my time with you. I just got divorced, so I know what I'm looking for. So I'm not even gonna waste my time with you to wait and see if you're gonna change. You're not gonna change, so let me go now. You know what I'm saying? So I dated somebody else, and he had an issue with putting a title on what we were. Cause I'm like, I was getting to my late 20s. I knew I wanted to have kids. So I'm like, okay, are you my boyfriend? What are you? I think we're too old to put a title. I said, okay, if you can't put a title on us, I don't have time for you either. Because I eventually want to title you as a potential husband or something. You know what I'm saying? And if you weren't even really willing to tell me if I was your girlfriend, then we can't go no further if you can't even tell me that. So after that, I met Phil. And so
it was a lot of, at least from what I saw from that community, it was a lot of guys that was just sexually charged. Because first of all, the way the women dress in the skate community, and then y'all had these big events where there's a lot of drinking going on, pool parties and stuff like that. So if I was, as a man, I don't think I would be looking for a wife in that community. And I would probably be looking for a good time,
And, I always knew I didn't let my first marriage deter me from wanting to get married again and having kids. So I always knew that, I want to get married and I want to have kids. So I always thought differently than a lot of females in that community, because they would do the same way. They just want to go out of town and have fun that weekend. But I was like, no, I want to escape. You know what I'm saying? So when he did that, I was like, okay. And then so we stopped talking, and then a few months later, that's when me and you met.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm coming from the opposite end of the spectrum. I was recently divorced. I had custody of my kids. I was raising a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old by myself. That was a person that I went to high school with, that we were helping each other out. This was a female, and we tried to turn it into a relationship. She was, helping me recuperate. I had just had surgery for cancer, and at the same time, she needed a place to stay, so we were staying together. We tried to turn that into a relationship. That didn't work. And so at that time, we were going through this up and down situation where we were constantly on and off, breaking up. And so that was just one particular time she decided that she wanted to break up. And I was like, okay, let's just stay that way. So during the process of this time, it was awkward because the girl was moving her things out, but she was still using my car to get back and forth and stuff like that.
But she was using your car while she was using his car. I mean, him was still, when we got together, she was still using his car.
Yeah, and so it was like, it was weird because, like I told her, I said, we're friends, so I don't want to change how I feel about you as a friend just because it didn't work. But it was like, once I started talking to you, I knew then, I'm like, okay, this is who I should have been. You know what I mean? Because. And
then she called me a man.
So here's this thing in Chicago, we have okay, I get a lot of people who tell me, man, it's 4th of July, 46 people got shot in Chicago, stuff like that. And everybody thinks that that's the entire city.
Yeah.
That's how Chicago's viewed from the outside because of the news. In Chicago, Atlanta is this big booty strip club city, and the polar opposite is a bunch of homosexuals and gays and trans down here. So, that was her concept. Oh, it could be a man. You don't even know who this girl is. Y'all met over the internet, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So when we actually started talking, I came down here thanks to you in the buddy pass.
Yep, sure did. Yep.
I came down here because your concept was
he had to meet my daddy and my mama. He had to meet my parents.
So
and he was like, what? Because he from the city. We old fashioned down here in the South. So up north, they just, you want to be with me? Okay, let's go together. Like, I don't got to ask mom and dad if I could be married. You know what I'm saying? But my mom and daddy wasn't finna hear that. You finna go where to go see who? We don't even know who you finna go see. So I'm like, okay, if you want me to come to Chicago, you got to meet my dad and my mama first.
Yeah, and see, I'm
grown as hell saying that.
I've never heard that before. So when she said that, I was like, what? But I ended up coming down here.
He came down here because if he wouldn't have came down here, that would have been.
Yeah, and so when I came down here, everything was going really, really great. I was getting a feel for Atlanta. I had never been to Atlanta besides that one time to go to the skating rink. And we went over your mom's house. And I had left my jacket at Sharon's house. And so when I went over there, I had to go back and get it. And
we stayed there for almost 2 hours.
Yeah, that whole conversation I had with your mom, I was like, okay, I can do this. Like I had never had that deep of, it was almost like what you do.
Mm-hmm. Because she had that gift too.
And I didn't know Sharon had that gift. It just felt, it felt natural. It felt like at that point, God was telling me that this is my message to you through her, that this is the right move. So after that, you asked me, did I want to drive that rental car? Mm-hmm. So I'm driving the rental car, and you said, Shawty, if you pull this car over right now and ask me to marry you, I would. And I knew then and there, that was a couple of weeks later, we was like, all right, let's start setting this up.
When I realized I want to I knew I wanted to be married to you.
Hey, can I get a pause for the calls real quick?
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Cause we could go. We talking.
Shawty, pull the call, man. Shawty, pull the call. If you pull this call right now, hey, man. That's hilarious. I mean, oh my God, that's probably the most honest way to put that. Like, you don't find that all the time. You see people play about that. I got married today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like she was serious. I mean, she called you shawty, bro. Now here.
Yeah.
Oh God.
But here's the thing that I love about how we got together. I never been the guy that, you know how you get ready to get married to somebody and then you set this date.
Long engagement.
Yeah, like, so it's like you giving yourself time between the time you decide you want to marry them till the wedding day to see if they're the one. You know what I mean? I figure if I propose to you or if I make it known to you that I want to marry you, that's my real, true, authentic, you know what I'm saying, desire. I don't want to sit here and say, okay, I want to marry you, but let's set the wedding date next year so I can see if you're going to mess up. You know what I mean? And so when you said that, I knew that you were serious about it. So I was like, okay, I got to get myself together. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then it was like, to the topic of your show, authenticity. I wanted you to be everything you were, to give me a fair assessment of, is this the person I'm supposed to be?
Right. Yeah. And what's good about that is, you know, if you reached a relationship before where maybe that person maybe stifles your growth and then you come into another person that allows you to be exactly who you're meant to be, that's an automatic fair assessment of who that person is, what they're about, how they operate. I mean, you got a chance to come around the family. You had to meet the family. And that's important because her past is also a part of her future, to get to know, like, who is she gonna be? You know, like, you look at the mom and daddy, like, that's what I got to look forward to. And you got to know, like, you can't change it all by yourself. You got to pretty much, if you want to, as a man, you got to guide her, like, okay, baby, I understand this is who you're going to be, but there's a part of that may not be good for us, or it may not be good for you. Let me help guide you. So, and Kiera, being an intuitive reader, that's what you do. You help guide people to where they're supposed to be. There's a lot of people who think, I'm just who I'm gonna be. I'm just whatever. You just take it or leave it. Love me or hate me. But dude, right. You don't want to be hated. You know what I'm saying? You don't do everything to appease or please somebody.
Right.
But gosh, man, if you got something you need to change, just change it. And it's okay. And y'all got a beautiful story, man. I mean, I know that's not the end of it. I mean, it sounds like it could just go on and on. So talk to me a little bit. I mean, that's when you say, well, I'm calling you out the field. You say you're a producer. You're not just that, but you are a motivational speaker. How do you get into all of that? Where's that motivation come from? And how did you know that it's meant for you to do?
It started when I was a kid. I'm a believer that every gift that we're supposed to be operating in, who's already operating in our purest form, which is a kid. When you're a child, you're in your purest form, which means you haven't been tainted by religion, politics, sexuality, gender, none of that stuff. You're just being whatever you were born to do and whatever you were born to be. As we grow older and we start to accumulate more knowledge of different things, then we kind of start trying different things and being persuaded in different areas. So mine is unique. One of the things that I dealt with as a child was I hated when somebody told me to do something and they didn't clarify. So I remember going to school and the teacher would say, like one time I was in high school and it should have been embarrassing, but because I didn't know, I really wanted to know. We were reading composition, and in the composition, the lady said that the temperature was lukewarm. So I was like, what the heck is lukewarm? I didn't know what lukewarm meant. And so the teacher thought that I was being funny and she put me out of class. And that bothered me. So from that point on, it was always like, okay, if you tell me something, I want to understand exactly how that works. And as I got older, I started running into other people who would be told a general thing. I grew up in church real heavy, so people would say, you gotta, be ye holy for I am holy. Okay, well, how? And so folks would be like, I don't understand. You telling me to do something, but I don't understand what that means. And so I would like dissect everything to make sure that I understood it. And then when I explained it, it was like the reaction that people got, like, oh, that's how you do. Or, like my guy Drew, when he was trying to figure out how to fix his brakes. And in Chicago, it gets like really, really cold. I think it was like -15 outside one day. And he was like, bro, I got to get my car running. I don't know how to fix the brakes and it's too cold. So I was like, okay, well, this is what you do. Go outside, do blah, 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 blah. When you do that, go in, warm up, da, 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 da. By the time you come back out, this will be there, spray this on that, blah, blah, blah. And so he was like, oh. And so that's where it came from, that desire to help people have that aha moment, that this is how it works. Because once you learn how to do something yourself, you can do it whenever you want to. So as I got older and I just kept carrying that, I got to a point where I found myself speaking to just small groups of people. I played football for about 7 years in different communities in the suburbs outside of Chicago. And I always would find myself either before or after the game, sometimes during the game on the sideline, just having these conversations where different people are trying to figure out how certain things work. And they know what they're supposed to do. They just don't know the practicality of it. Like, how do I implement this? So that's where it started. And then when I came down here to Georgia, I ran into a friend of mine. He was a coworker. And so I got invited to my son, Juice, Andrew, we call him Juice, to his school to be a part of the Real Man Read program. And so the very first time that I was able to go into a classroom full of 7th graders and 6th graders and speak, they all had the same complex I had when I was young. The teachers was telling them what to do, why you got to come to school, but they didn't know how this affected. They didn't know the intricate details. So it was like, once I saw that that's what their problem was, that was right up my alley. So I knew then that my place as a speaker was to bring clarity to the audience that I was speaking to, so that whenever I told them something, they don't just say, oh, I had a good time listening to you speak. They can literally go back home and apply what I'm saying, because now I understand how it works. So as that evolved, I started getting more speaking engagements. I was able to go to the Keep the Beat DJs event in Conyers, which is an event where there's a organization, a nonprofit organization that takes young men and women off the street, not necessarily off the street, but keep them out of trouble by teaching them how to DJ and stuff like that. And so it was like, as that started to progress, other speaking engagements came available. So I knew at that point that this is what I was supposed to do.
And you're a good speaker anyway. Like, you just like to talk. So
yeah, that helps too, to be very, very talkative.
Be a natural at it.
Yeah.
All right, so Kiera, it's your turn. Tell us how you got to where you are. Not just that, but kind of like Phil's rundown. Just let me know exactly what you are, who you are, and how does that all work in together to where we are today.
Okay, so I've always been the different one in my family. I've always done things my own way. You know what I'm saying? My siblings, I've always been, I'm not gonna say I'm the black sheep of the family. I'm just like the odd one in the family. Like,
you follow the beat of your own.
Yeah, I follow the beat of my own drum. Like, I cut my hair off and grew locks. I got my nose pierced. I'm wearing the African clothes, the unks and stuff like that, the frankincense body oils and stuff. So I've always been, when I was little, I used to always want to be born in the 70s so I could wear bell bottoms and afros and stuff. I would tell my daddy, why I couldn't be born in the 60s and 70s so I could dress like that and, go to Soul Train and dance like this, you know what I'm saying? I've always wanted, and my dad used to call me a flower. Look, my dad used to call me a flower child, and I never knew what it was, but you a flower child. I said, okay, I don't know what that is, but whatever. You a hippie, okay, so I like that. I always say I'm a hippie, So I've always been different. So when I first got into my yoga journey, I always was interested in yoga, but I didn't know where I could go take classes. And, I would try to practice yoga on YouTube, but it was kind of hard to follow because it was boring, because I'm like, okay, we're doing a lot of deep breathing, but what am I getting out of this? So one day, I was on Facebook, and one of my friends I went to high school with, he would always inbox me and say, hey, come to this yoga class at West End Park this Sunday. I'm like, no, because what I saw on YouTube is boring, so I'm not trying to go sit outside in the heat and be bored. You know what I'm saying? So he just inboxed me. He just kept inboxing me. And so finally, I said, you know what? Let me go to this boy class so he'll leave me alone. So I went to the class one Sunday back in 2015. And, that's what changed my life. I met the yoga instructor. His name was Kiera Yogini, but his government name is Kameen. So I met him, and we just hit it off. Like, we was doing a lot of deep breathing and stuff like that. But the way he explained it, I knew why I was deep breathing. I was here.
That's what I was trying to do when people get that aha moment.
I knew why I was deep breathing, and I knew why I had to lay on this mat with my eyes closed and meditate, and I knew why I was doing these poses to heal certain parts of my body that was sore. You know what I'm saying? And so that when I went to that yoga class that Sunday, I was doing yoga every day. I've been doing yoga every day since almost. You know what I'm saying? And that's what put me on this new spiritual journey that I was on, because we grew up in church too. So I got baptized at my grandma's church, and then when I was old enough to figure out, okay, I don't too much because they loud as hell, I started going to they loud as hell in there. So I started going to my grandma's church. So I realized, okay, I'm finna go to Word of Faith. That's where I'm a member at. I'm still a member. I just don't go all the time. So.
Oh, okay.
So I became a member of Word of Faith. It was more my speed because Bishop Bronner is a teacher. So he was teaching us like why we were doing what we were doing and stuff like that. So, so back to the yoga. So that changed my life and put me on this journey, because it was I felt like the journey was letting me know who I was. I was getting to know myself and the powers I had to, make my life what I wanted to be. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know if I should talk.
Look, spell it, man. Whatever. It's just the truth. It don't matter.
Yeah. Okay. So when I was, going to church all the time, it was a lot of stuff that I wanted for myself, but it wasn't happening. And, I was praying. I still pray, but I was praying and stuff. And then I would go to church, and then the bishop or the preacher be like, you gotta wait on the Lord. So I'm like, okay, let me wait then. I was waiting for some stuff to happen, so I'm waiting. But in the meantime, I'm getting older, and I'm talking about I want to have babies. So right. In the meantime, I'm waiting, and I'm getting older. I'm like, I'm almost 30, and we've been married going on 5 years now, and I'm still not pregnant. So I'm still waiting. So when I got on this journey I'm on now, the circle I started hanging around, I learned about manifesting, putting in the work to get the results that you want yourself. So I was like, okay, so in my opinion, that wait on the Lord stuff make people lazy, because they literally take that literal. Like, I'm just gonna wait for this miraculous thing to happen. And I said miraculous things can't happen, but I feel like God gives you the power to do the work on your own. He's just aiding you, and people don't see that. I feel like they literally take that waiting thing literal. So I'm like, okay, God, I know that you want me to put in the work to get these babies. So when I got on that journey, I was praying to God, but then I felt like I was using his tools, what he put on the earth for me to manifest what I wanted. And so when I started, praying and doing action as well, that's when I got Noah. And that's when I started being enlightened to a lot of things, a lot of, crystals and herbs. And I know a lot of people may frown upon that, but I'm like, okay, God made the herbs, God made the crystals, God, everything I'm using, God made. It comes from the earth. And so, I started doing that and incorporating, and still talking to God the whole time. So, but everything that I wanted, everything that I've been praying for, instead of me just sitting up waiting for it to come to me, I was putting in the work, and it actually started happening. Phil, let's buy a house. We didn't say, well, we got bad credit, how we going? We actually put in the work to fix our credit, and we bought a house. We need a new car. So we actually put in the work. Now we got 2 cars. You know what I'm saying? So stuff like that, I feel like, that's what put me on my journey, because I was trying to find answers. I was trying to find, I felt like it's something I need to be doing. I just felt like it was something I need to be doing to make my life what I want it to be, instead of me just letting it, instead of life happening to me, I needed to do something in my life to make it happen. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's how I kind of got on this journey. And the intuitive readings, that's a long story. I don't want to take up too much time, but it's a journey. So I've been doing a lot since 2015. So now, my ancestors told me to start, doing it. And I was like, what? So I bought some tarot cards 2 years ago. And I think I was still pregnant with Noah, or I had just had Noah, I don't remember. But we went to this store that sells the crystals and stuff I was just talking about. And so we initially went to the store to go get some tiger's eye, some type of crystal, because I wanted to manifest something. So I needed the crystal to help me. So it was this whole section over to the side where tarot cards. I'm like, tarot cards. I had never seen tarot cards in person. I always see them like on movies and stuff like that. So I went over there, and this one pack of tarot cards caught my eye because they had the Egyptian deity in the front, and I do Kemetic yoga. So I said, Phil, can you buy me these tarot cards? You was like, sure. So I'm like, I don't even know how to read tarot cards. So they was up on my bed for 2 years. I just wanted them because they had the Egyptian girl in the front of them. Okay. So about a couple of months ago, I was talking to my ancestors at my ancestor altar, and I was asking my grandma. I was just asking my people, like, I felt like I wasn't accomplishing enough. And I wanted to know what my destiny in life was, other than being a wife and mom. I wanted to feel like I was contributing something. And so for 2 weeks, I was like, I wasn't crying, but I was like, y'all, show me something. You know what I'm saying? Give me signs, come in my dream or something. And so I started having dreams and visions and stuff. My grandma came to me. Basically, they told me to call your mama and ask her a whole bunch of questions, and I did. I ended up going down to Montezuma and finding out what my great grandma stuff was buried at. And so everything just started coming into me at once. And then eventually somebody said, pick up those cards. And when I did, I was like, wow. I was reading Phil, reading you. I'm having dreams about you. I'm calling you, reading you. And you like, how you get to tarot cards, Kiera? Because what you telling me, how do you know this? And I was like, I feel like it's something that runs in our family. And so that's how that came. So it's just been a journey since.
Can I say so? You almost had the similar journey.
What you mean?
My biggest quest that led me to do what I do for other people to help people, and your biggest quest that led you to do what you do to help people, was the fact that I didn't understand the how. You know what I mean? I have a mentor right now who's a millionaire. And he'll tell me, do this and do that, because that's what he's used to doing. But if he don't break down how to do it, I'm like, okay, Brian said to do this, but like, how do you see what I'm saying? So you're going to church, and church is saying to have faith, wait on the Lord, they that wait on the Lord, all this other stuff, and wait. But you're like, okay, so how this gonna happen?
In the meantime, my car got repoed. You know what I'm saying?
You wanted to understand, like, okay, the how. And most people say, just have faith, let God handle it, put it at the feet of Jesus, leave it alone. But there's a scripture in the Bible that says faith without works. Mm-hmm. So you got to be doing something while you're waiting. So as you started to understand how to manifest what it is that you wanted, that's how it's like once you open up that door that this is a gift I have that I can manifest from God, universe, whomever you want to call it, the things that I want, now all of a sudden, your potential starts opening up in a whole bunch of different areas. And I think that's really the thing for all of us. It's like once you understand how you're supposed to contribute to the world, everything else opens up.
Right, and I also believe that I think for most of us, what we do is we take our time to try to understand, like when people get into Christianity, one of the biggest things I've always kind of told people is this: if you're gonna walk that life, man, make sure you understand everything, right? Because if you don't, you're literally, the Bible can say something and you'll take it literal, but it has a totally different meaning or a totally different context of how it's supposed to be applied to your life. And if you're not really studying or really knowing, then you don't understand, and you definitely won't see how God used people who were not Christian to do many things. And there were people who basically would provide messages or who became the largest Christians, if you will, before they either persecuted Christians beforehand, people who believed in Christ or God, they would persecute them and God would use them. I've always let people know one thing: don't be afraid of another form of spirituality that is also tied to God, because just because it doesn't have the name Christian or you don't deem it Christian does not necessarily mean that God can't use that person. If God can use a baby to speak to you, he can use anything to speak to you. If in the Bible it talks about a burning bush speaking to a person, that means he can use somebody who is pretty much hellfire on earth, if you will. He can use any and everything to get his message to you. But the thing is, are you listening? Are you paying attention? Are you in tune with whom you are and what you are and how you are? And it's kind of like, and I'll just go into it a little bit, yesterday, how Irene told me, she said, you need to rely on whoever you pray to. That's what she said. She said, you need to start relying on whoever you pray to give you answers, because I'm that person. I'm just like Phil. If I don't know something, it drives me wild. Mm-hmm. I gotta know. You gotta tell me. Like, okay.
And when she said you don't know everything, I bust out laughing because I was like, oh snap.
Yeah. But I gotta know. I gotta have the answer. And it used to bother me growing up. I was the same way growing up, right? My mom was always like, go study this, go study that, go look for this. Because I would go to her like, she'll tell me to do something. And I said, well, why I gotta do that? You know, why do I have to do it exactly like that? Or how does that even tie together with this or that? And she'd say, okay, well, look, I'm gonna show you how, right? And that would always like, light bulb. And then I would feel good about what I was doing because it was like, I understand exactly what I'm doing. I'm that same person. And I think that's what also helped me start this business of well-rounded consulting, and that's the reason I made it well-rounded, because I want people who deal with me to leave me well-rounded, right? To not just be the person coming in and I just coach them up and give them a high five and send them on their way, and hopefully they revert back as a client because I know I got to help them again. I'd rather them come to me and leave me and say, man, that dude really imparted not just a lot into my life, but he really helped me understand a lot. Like, he broke it down for me, and to the point where now, because I have understanding, and biblically it states, my people died because of lack of knowledge, or they perished because of lack of knowledge. And I think a lot of times in anything, whether it be with inside us, right? Inside us, eating. So whether it be with inside us, everything starts from within. If you don't understand or start to take that journey to truly understand who you are from inside, you can never really portray that outside. You can't manifest it, right? You can't give that, right? So for me, I think that's important in marriage, because two people coming together to form one union, this person could be very in touch with who they are. This person don't know who they are, and y'all want to do this. And it's like, it never matches up because both of you have to be on the same journey. And in order to do that, it has to be where you not only accept that person's authenticity, but you get weird with it. You say, hey man, we're gonna go down this journey together. We don't know where it's gonna lead us, but we know for a fact, like, we're gonna make it to where we need to be.
And it's funny you said that because when I first started on my journey, you was looking at me like, girl, what did you do? Because he, you know, like he said, he grew up heavily in church. And so we was going to church at one point. We was going to my church. And then how we go to going to my church every Sunday with Bishop Brunner to, I'm going to do yoga instead on this Sunday. I'm doing yoga this Sunday. And you looking at me like, yoga? Girl, what you doing? You know what I'm saying? Because
my wife turned into a
yeah.
And stuff. You start thinking all kinds of stuff biblically, right?
Yeah, and then it's Kemetic yoga, so it's different deities in ancient Egypt. So when I started learning about that stuff, he looked at me like,
I thought she was worshiping the devil.
Right. Yeah, let's just keep it honest, right? Yeah, like what?
But the thing is like I learned that, and like how you said, we got to go down this journey together, because there's a scripture in the Bible that I always like to reference. It says, "How could two walk together except they be agreed?"
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. So, by me growing up in a Christian household, and you going into this Kemetic journey, I didn't know until I started researching that Africans created Christianity. But and this was prior to Constantine. You know.
Yeah, in its purest form.
Yeah, when the Europeans got a hold of Christianity, they
didn't reverse it
as the new religion.
Yep.
Because it wasn't their initial religion. It was created by Africans.
Right.
And so,
you have to ask yourself at that moment, how did they connect with God?
Right.
What did they do?
Yeah.
You know, so all of it ties together in some way. But because I was taught that if it wasn't out of that King James, if it wasn't out of those 66 books, you had an unk. I ain't know what an unk was. She was, you know, I had all of these, like, I'm gonna tell you what happened. So like when we moved down here and you started getting into yoga, I didn't have an issue with yoga because I just thought yoga was I thought it was a girly exercise. That's all I thought. I didn't know it had nothing to do with healing and fixing diabetes and high blood pressure and arthritis and depression. And then I'm like, oh, this is a healing mechanism.
Yeah.
But I didn't know.
I kept telling him to come to the class because he didn't know what I was doing.
Right. I just was like, no, a bunch of girls gonna be there. The only reason why
I got my legs all over, man. Everybody do all that. I'm a grown man.
I would go was to be supportive of you. But what happened was I was on the phone one day with a friend of mine from back home in Chicago, and he was asking me, he said, y'all going through a lot financially. Do you think this is because you no longer go to church? And right then and there, a voice spoke to me and said, no, I'm hitting the reset button. In other words, like, I'm resetting your thinking. So I just went with it, like, okay, whatever. When you started going into that direction, you went to, what's the bowling alley with the gym at the top upstairs?
Oh, Metroplex.
We went there, and you was being certified to learn how to teach yoga.
Teacher.
Yeah. And so I was sitting there on my phone, I had my little earbuds in, and I knew this was Kemetic yoga, which is another word for Egyptian.
Right.
So the instructor goes, all right, y'all, let's come together so we can pray. And I said, pray to who? That was the first time I was like, okay. And I didn't really catch what he was saying. So the next time I went, he said, young man, he said, would you like to join us in prayer? I said, yeah, I sure will, because I wanted to know who you praying to. So
what's going on with my life over here?
I get in line. I held the instructor's hand. I held my wife's hand, and the man is praying, and he's saying some of the most beautiful things I've never heard nobody in church ever pray like this, because church is the opposite of manifestation. And what I mean is, in church, you're taught everything goes through God. Everything goes through Jesus. But through manifestation, you're taught that God put everything in you.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I never heard a person pray, you know, for guidance of what I already had. I always hear people say, Lord, protect this. Lord, open up this. And Lord, deliver this. So it was like, in my mind, growing up in church, God had to do everything. But when I heard this man pray, he was praying and saying, give us guidance for what you've already deposited, so we can use it in this way to manifest this, to touch this person, to affect this group of people. And so when he finished, I'm waiting on him to say, in Jesus' name we pray, amen. He didn't say that. He just said, amen. So soon as it was over, I said, excuse me, bro. I said, who was you praying to? And he said, to the Creator. I said, and who was that? Because I want to know. I want to know who you talking to. So he said, the Creator of all things, God. I said, what's his name? He said, young man, your African ancestors didn't give God a name because the Creator was so vast and so great that we just acknowledged him as the Creator. I said, so who is Ra? I just started going in because
he had my instructor number and he be calling him, asking him questions.
Like you, I'm like you. I want to know what the heck you talking about and what's going on. So he broke it down to me. He said these deities represent messages. So it doesn't mean that we worship them.
Right.
It's he said the European has taught you all that Egyptians worship idol gods and different things of that nature. He said the deities in the Kemetic culture represent stages. So there's a deity named Ptah that he told me about. Ptah represents where the Bible got the story of creation from. So he said when he had his son, he was out there wilding out, smoking weed, having sex and doing all of this stuff, and he ended up getting this girl pregnant with his son. So at that point, he was like, okay, now I can't be this wild, loose guy. I got to be responsible. I got a child. And he goes, I don't know what to do. And his master teacher told him to read the story of Ptah, the deity. And he took guidance from that deity at that stage in his life. It was at that point that I stopped questioning what you do, because I now had some understanding. Before, I was just judging the heck out of you. Every time I saw someone, like, put that incense out. Is that a scripture? What you is that blessed or what you doing? No, I don't want that, you know. So it was like me having that experience, understanding that, wow, I've been so closed-minded all my life to anything else outside of Christianity that I didn't realize the good in other cultures.
So when I was in seminary, one thing we had to study was apologetics. And in apologetics, what you learn is other religions, how they operate, and how you can talk to them about Christianity practically, right? What I started to see was everybody's religion branched off of something that we've already kind of talked about, or, you know, like everything, you hear the story of Jesus Christ, then you hear that similar story in another religion, but it's somebody else's name. Then you hear, it's just like, man, I was like, hold on, wait. So if this was on the reverse and they were doing it to me, I would tell them that they're evil or they're lying to me. Right? Because that's dissension. I think that's religion. What I've learned about God the most is that, man, it's such a spiritual thing that you can't tie yourself down. I think the Bible is meant for us to totally understand, for us to follow. If you are a Christian, I'm a Christian, so I believe it's meant for us to understand and follow and learn. But I also think that it talks about that if you read the word, or if you understand it and you don't go out and live it, it's just as good as looking into a mirror and forgetting exactly what you look like. I mean, if you don't live it out, you're really just reading it just to read it. But then you start holding other people to it because you don't truly understand what it is. And even the Bible teaches us, even if your brother does not follow what you follow, or if the person doesn't follow what you follow, you shouldn't be either a stumbling block to them, and you shouldn't stand in their way. You allow them to do what they do. Right. And, you know, on our end, what we sometimes make a mistake and do without understanding. See, one thing I did with a coworker of mine, he was Muslim, and I knew he was devout. I mean, he would stop, go in the back, he would pray, he would do all this stuff in the middle of work. He had no shame. and who he was and what he chose to follow. And so one day I said, I want to read the Quran with you, man. I want to see what it's about. I don't want to turn myself off to it, because I always felt as if growing up in church, I was always told, no, don't you ever go outside this, right? And so I was like, but what is outside of it? I mean, if God can protect me, if God told me himself, like, don't do it, then I'm not going to, not going to do it. If it's something that I know for a fact is evil, you can tell, right? So if you're in tune with those things and you run, you're like, okay, I can't go that way. What I did was, when I was reading the Quran, I would read the Quran and I would read the Bible, like side by side. And I was like, wow.
So many similarities.
Wow. I was like, this is crazy. I said, okay, I don't want to say that Jesus Christ was not real or, anything like that. I don't want to say that this is correct. I don't want to say this is wrong. I want to understand, really understand, because I'm limited in my knowledge. And the more I've come to read things, the more I've come to understand. And the more I've come to see things, the more I've really come to understand that I think, and I don't want to be like, oh, I'm declaring this, but I think wholeheartedly the reason why Christianity has lost a lot of people today is because more people want to understand what's outside those four walls of a church. And I think because of the information age that we're in, when everything is accessible, you have people who will not just listen and say, okay. You have people, they go research it, and then say, well, why this and why that and why that? Why is my minister only talking about this, and why is my pastor only talking about that? Why is he not going into the depths of the different dimensions of spirituality, the different levels of spirituality? They always say different levels, different devils. Well, what levels are we talking about? Like, you know what I mean? What are we going deeper into? And if you really, really start to understand this, like spiritual levels and different things that you can either connect with or feel or understand, and what everybody's gift is in this whole spiritual realm, and how sometimes some people can go into the spirit realm. It's like people it's weird. I heard this gentleman say, he said, as a Satanist, we had more faith than most Christians. He said we could go to a different dimension and basically transfer our spirit, right, to convert them to Satanism. Wow. They were at church, they were He said spiritually we were able to go in there. He said anybody who was totally tied to God, right? He said we weren't able to touch them. He said, but he never said if they were Christian or not. He said if anybody who was totally tied to God, that's what he said, we could not touch them. They would be speaking in tongues or they would be praying and we couldn't touch them. Like we could not physically or spiritually get to them. Like he said, it would always be this wall around them. Like we couldn't touch them, as in hedge of protection and things like that. So I honestly believe wholeheartedly, yes, the things that are within us were put there, right, as the tools for us to use. But with any tool, if you use it and don't sharpen it, it becomes dull. Right. So I think wholeheartedly that we have to get to a position in our, not just spirit walk, but in our understanding of where we are and who we are, to say, okay, we have an opportunity here to really make an impact on the world and not try to convert people to something that we believe, but more so be what we are. And then that being itself, hey man, people will open themselves up to having more spirituality, being more connected to things that are correct in their life, because you're not trying to make them fit. Right. Saying, I'm going to show you something, and this is what I've learned, and this is who I am, and this is where I'm. If you want to follow me to church, sure, follow me, but understand I'm going to take you deeper than just, okay, read this scripture. All right, cool. All right, what does it say? All right, now do it. No, I'm going to show you why. I'm going to take you further than this, because you need to understand what God is really trying to tell you here. You need to understand who Jesus really was. You need to understand what this person really did. Who was Paul really? Who was this person really? What is this okay, well, who was this person tied to in Egyptian culture when we first started out? Like if the first man was created, And after that, there was no religion. It was God and man, and the connection. At some point, that connection was broken. How did we stay connected? Like, how did we get back to him? Like, how did we recognize him? And what I've known about deities for a long time is that I like to call them prophets of that time. Like you say, messengers, if you will, or stages, right? So sometimes I think there's prophets who come, and that's a certain stage of life, right? They give a message to the world, and then when that prophet dies, another one comes. Because every prophet needs their time. It's kind of like when, if you and Karina are online and you're doing readings, you can't, if you're the one that's doing the reading, Kiera, and then Karine jumps in, it's like, whoa, let her have this. This is her platform.
Right.
Let her have it. And then if the Spirit gives her a message, she only is supposed to speak after you have already given the message that's supposed to come from you. And I think I'm going into a whole different thing, but anyway.
It makes sense though.
Yeah, it goes back to the topic, authenticity.
Right.
Something that you said was that, and this is a topic me and my wife talk about all the time, about the state of the Black community. And we was asking, do we think Black people would ever get to the point where we are a communal people, we unified and we working together, whatever. And I was saying it's difficult because even in the scholars of our community, you got the scholars of the Christian community, the scholars of the Muslim community, the scholars of the Semitic community, the scholars of the Hebrew Israelite community, the Pan-Africanism, the politics. You got the scholars of the historians, the Garveyites, the folks who follow Martin Luther King. You got all of these different people who are well versed in what they study.
Right.
But because most of what they study conflict and clash with someone else's scholarly,
it's gonna be hard.
It's hard for us to bring that together. But if you said, listen, I'm a Christian, or I'm a Muslim, or I am, I'm Pan-Africanist, whatever. I'm not going to bring that to the table specifically so that can shine.
Right.
I'm going to use that as a tool to come together. To, like you said, to impart my contribution to the world to bring us together. If everybody did that and was authentic, you see what I'm saying?
Open-minded.
They can listen. This is who I am, yes, but I'm using this as a tool to help you. I'm not trying to convert you or whatever the case is. I think that we can not only unify the Black community, but we could unify marriages, we could unify broken homes, everything.
Yeah, I mean, because coming into my own marriage, I know my wife, she didn't have the closest relationship with God when I first met her. And then the way I was spiritually and the way I am spiritually, she said she felt like from me, like I was so in tune with God, it was like scary. She was like, because she was like, it was almost like you could just kind of see stuff before it happened, or certain things about things. Like, how did you know that? How did you see into that deep? And I said, well, look, I don't know how I see it. I just know for a fact that's what God shows me, and I go from there. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's what I do. I said, I don't know how I do it. I said, but I think it's a gift. I said, I came upon this gift when I was about 16. I was walking down the hallway in high school, and I heard a voice tell me, look at that girl right there. I don't know where that voice came. I looked up and I looked at her, and it said, look her in the eyes. And I looked at her, and I could see everything about her. It was the weirdest experience of my life. I could see everything, like when I say everything. And so finally, God had gave me a message for one of my friends. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna try this out to see if I'm actually going crazy, right? I probably need to, because I was like, I'm playing football. I probably took too many hits. So like, I'm hearing voices and stuff. So I went to my friend and I said, God told me to tell you that the move that you're trying to make next, don't be afraid of it. And she just bust out, started crying on the bus, just crying. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, what's going on? She was considering, she wanted to make a career move, not a career, but too young to talk about careers, but she wanted to be a mortician, and she was afraid to be because she didn't think that was normal. Right? But her father was a mortician, and she said she liked it, she loved it. And I said, well, God just told me to tell you, don't be afraid of that step, whatever it is that you're trying to do. She took the step, and from there it was success. But, and from there, I got kind of scared of my own gift to the point where when I would date, right, or when I got into dating and stuff, you would hear things about people, or you would see something in a woman, and you would be like, oh man, I don't want to tell her that. Or you would I'd say, I'll ignore that in order to keep dating her. But eventually it was like, oh no, you got to part ways with this person. And I realized at that point, I was not even accepting myself. How can I accept myself?
Wow.
How can I even say I'm being authentic or being real if I'm not able to come to this person and be just exactly who I am and tell them exactly what I see, and know for a fact that they can look at me back in my face and say, you crazy. Right. But I know for a fact I'm correct. I know it. I know I'm right. Whatever, that's fine. And if you want to walk away, that's okay. It will manifest itself, right? And so that is where I think in marriages and in the Black community, how you just said, we don't do a good job of taking our position and saying, okay, your strength is in this. Let that be your strength. Let's use that strength in order to get to where we're trying to be. Let's not use it against each other, because then you're basically just self-sabotage. I wrote a status about it the other day. It's just self-destruction.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're Kemetic, if you're Christian, if you're this, that's fine. I'm not gonna tell you, you gotta believe what I believe. No. You don't have to believe what I believe, because we're gonna all die believing something. And when we die, we're gonna find out if we were right or wrong. And at that point, it just kind of is, you were right or you were wrong. Okay, you got to accept whatever that is. Some people believe you die and you either go to the light world or you go to the dark world. They don't say heaven or hell. They just say light or darkness. You just got to be good with whatever you believe. And if you know for a fact that it's true, then it's cool. But one thing I'm not with is religion. And I really hate when people put me in that, because they always come to me and, you're a Christian. I'm like, yeah, that's true. And they're like, yeah, but that's your religion. And I'm like, calm down, man. Christianity, God Almighty, you can believe in Christ and believe in God and not it be tied to just, oh, I only see things this way. No, man, look, I'm open-minded. There's certain things I don't open myself to because of the spiritual ramifications of that. The evil things that could come back, or doors open into my family to cause harm. I understand that, and I had to learn that the hard way, right? Because just as well as there's things for good, there's also the same thing on the spiritual realm that is bad. Right. You have to be able to understand that and respect that and say, look, I'm a super powerful spiritual being. Yeah, man, but you got somebody on the other side who's just as powerful as you. Right. Or more powerful. So if they come and punch you in your face and you lose that battle, now you've opened that door, and now you got to work spiritually to close it. You know what I mean? To fight that battle to get that person out. But either way, so with y'all being on pretty much, man, the same spiritual journey, and it all tied together to the point where the connection was there. And this is what I was going to draw back to. You said, I want to see what she was into. I was going to say, the biggest thing you had to realize at that moment, God himself would not have allowed you to feel any connection, is where she was headed. You weren't supposed to go. You see what I'm saying? So it's like you were meant to go down that path. You just didn't know you were meant to go down that path. So sometimes either you walk the path or God just go like this. Get your butt over here. He smack you over there. You see what I'm saying? And Kiera, you were meant to understand more about where you were headed. There's a reason. You were meant to hear how somebody else prays. And you're like, wait, but I've been praying this way all my life and I'm getting results, and they're praying this way and they're getting results. So who's wrong? Nobody. Nobody's wrong. You can't fight that. You got to be like, okay, cool. I've always said this. If the Bible can be used for wrongdoing, so can anything. Wow. If that's how we look at it. Yeah. If that's how we really look at it, anything can. So I'm not going to look at it as automatic evil, because it ain't from the word. Hallelujah. It ain't from the Bible, so it's wrong. I'm going to say, okay, how are they using that tool?
Right.
I could use a hammer to nail something in the wall, which is what it's meant for. I can use it to hurt somebody. Right.
Yeah.
Whatever you use that tool as is how you use it. So,
right.
Being that you guys have come together, now you have inside us, Kiera Yogini. Man, I mean, you're reading people, and now you're at a different spot. Kids are older now, right? You have 2 babies now, right? And then now you're about to push out 2 kids into the world, older kids out there into the world to pretty much start living and fending on their own. I know one has a job now. He's working at Burger King. Let me know which one. I'm going to get that hookup. You know what I'm saying? What's up, cuz, man? Ain't seen you since you was like exactly. Like, hey, bro, you know what I'm saying? Y'all don't upcharge for cheese, do you? No, you don't. Okay, good. So now y'all are on another journey, because when offspring leaves, there also comes a part of that in a spiritual sense where they've been tied to you. So when you push them out into the world to start fending for themselves, that is a piece of you spiritually that's going out there too to meddle around.
Wow. Yeah.
See what I mean? And I think that also ties into the Bible, where it talks about train up a child in the way that he should go. Then when he grow old, he shall not depart from it. That means on a spiritual realm, physically, mentally, and all of that stuff too. We don't go that deep. We just think of it like, oh, train up a child, da da da. And I always point to it because it's right over, the other way, right over my shoulder, that verse right there. Train up a child, probably can't see it, but either way, train up a child where they should go. So that's happening. How are y'all going to deal with the fact that, because when it happens, I mean, my mom said, when I left the nest, I was the baby. So when I left the nest, she now had to trust spiritually that she had imparted everything into me that was needed for me to survive. Because now we got to know too, your spirit, your son's spirit is going out here to meddle with whoever else and whatever else they got going on. It's not everybody is centered like y'all. So how do you deal with the fact of, what are you imparting into your sons as they're about to go out here and really deal with it on a larger scale? Sure, at school it's a little bit more controlled because you got adults in there and all of this stuff. But when they get on their own, I'm here to tell you, Lord, have mercy. I mean, God almighty. How are you imparting wisdom into them as a couple, as you are now? Because I know that wisdom has changed from the beginning to now. Yeah. Especially with the journey you've been on, you're like, okay, you got to flip a little bit. Look, son, let me tell you this, and You see what I'm saying? How are y'all basically rearing them to get them ready for the face?
I'm actually, which is
we was just discussing this.
is unique.
Yeah.
Because I use a bit of my practice from my motivational speaking. And I also use a great dose of what Kiera Yogini business.
Because I be reading everybody.
Right. So my wife, before she started reading people publicly, she started.
I was doing them for a while.
Practicing on us. And so there's a concept I use with all when I go speak to 6th graders, 7th graders, 8th graders. I always let them know high school is the most important time of your life. It's because once you get out of high school, the training wheels is off. Mm-hmm. Like your last stands as a protected, caterpillar in a cocoon, developing. Because once you out there, you out there. And I did this exercise with my oldest son where I made him hold a basket, and I put some shoes in the basket. I said, "Can you still keep this basket up?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "So this basket is your responsibility. This basket is your life. But the things that I put in here are the world putting their weight on it." So I started throwing shoes, books, blankets, clothes. Eventually, he dropped the basket. Mm. When he dropped the basket, I said, "That's what the world is getting ready to do to you."
Yeah.
I said, "Now you have 4 years to prepare for all of this stuff that's coming." So that was the motivational side. Now, lately, what we've been doing is the spiritual side, the inner work. So my wife and I are developing a intuitive meditation class. The intuitive is to give you the guidance. The meditation is to reset and reprogram the thinking.
You teach the meditation.
So I teach the meditation, she teaches the intuitive, and then the yoga and all that stuff. And so with my son, this is his last year of high school, getting ready to go to college. This is another approach that we take. The fact that the brain has two functionalities. It has a lot of different functionalities, but there's two main functions, the conscious and the unconscious. The unconscious runs 95% of your behavior, whether you want it to or not.
Yeah.
Right.
So whatever my son has learned, picked up, whether it's from us, whether it's from
them crazy
kids at his school, whatever thoughts and emotions you think today, you are literally going to think 95% of those thoughts tomorrow, every day for the rest of your life. And this is what drives people. This is why you got crazy people, intelligent people, folks that got common sense, people who can't keep a man, folks that earns money and why does keep happening to them? It's because 95% of their thoughts is the same as it was yesterday. So if I was successful yesterday and that's my unconscious thought, I'm gonna be successful tomorrow because it's in me.
Yeah.
So how do you change that? And so the meditation teaches you how to go in and really change that programming that you're running. So that's what I've been teaching my son. You're literally training yourself on how to be when you graduate. Yeah. So if you lazy now, it's been you're gonna be lazy when you get out there.
Honey, it's been a journey getting PJ because the older you get, the more you get set in your ways. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
That programming gets stronger.
That programming gets stronger. So it's he finna be 18 in 7 months.
Mm-hmm.
So, we just found out some stuff he been doing the last, a few days.
Smoking weed and all this other stuff.
It's we still trying to talk to him, but, we can't control him once he get outside this house, we can only do our best to talk to him.
I think what it is to have no guilt.
Yeah.
As a parent, because I know a lot of parents.
You're very hands-on. Even before I came into the picture, you was so hands-on with the boys, and then I feel like I just added to it. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And so for them to come from a dad like you and somebody like me who just and what he said, I just reiterate. You know what I'm saying? And so. And he still do what he want to do. It's kind of it's disappointing because you want your kids to like he said, they're reflecting of you.
Every parent wants their kid to do good.
Yeah, but you can't control people. I just pray for them.
No, what I do is I know. That's what I was saying. You can't have any guilt.
Yeah.
Because if you are a parent and your intentions is to do right by your kids, to instill everything in them. It's basically we go
over bills with them.
You do everything because people can't give you a booklet on how to parent because they can tell you the typical behavior patterns of a child, but every child got their own personality. Yeah. They're gonna do things differently. So you're gonna handle two children in your same home completely
differently. Yes.
And so it's once they get to the point where they are now out there on their own. You don't stop parenting, you just take a different role.
Right.
So you can't be guilty with what you have done to help them, unless you know you were purposely abusing them, whatever, But if you are...
If you know for a fact you've been doing your job to help your kid be the best that he can be when he leaves, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Then you just trust that this is what I instilled in you, and you let them know, listen, I'm always here if you need some advice, but everybody's going to create their own path.
Yes.
And I guarantee
because we don't smoke, we don't drink, so to know that he's doing that, you know what I'm saying?
Well, the reason why it upset me when I found out last week that he was smoking weed, but when I was 17, I tried.
But he been doing it for a year, though. You tried it.
No, but hear what I'm saying. I was grown when I stopped. I didn't smoke consistently every day, but every now and again I would, I tried it when I was 17. I ain't really kept for it. A couple of years go by, somebody hey man, smoke this blunt with me, and I'm like, no, I might end up pulling off or something like that. The last time I actually tried some weed was in 2011 when I was in barber college, at the beginning of barber college, and it was just I just tried it. You know what I mean? But that's just the path that I chose.
Right.
I knew that it wasn't something I wanted to do,
Yeah.
so I never was like a weed head without my eyes all low or whatever. So I know as a teenager, just like how you told me when you was 18, your mama wanted you to stay in the house. Your thing wasn't weed, your thing was staying out late.
I wanted to go bowling with my friends.
See, so that's what I'm saying. So that's why I said as a parent, you can't be guilty because your child is going to be exposed to stuff, you know, and he has knowledge of spirituality. He has knowledge of,
because he talked to me about astral projection.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
but
I had to tell him to stop doing that because you've been in your soul, you know, went to some other realm, and I ain't finna come get you.
You know, so it's like as a parent, that's a part of growth for us is to accept that my child, he or her, is going to do some things that I don't approve of, but I have to know that I've put enough in him or her to come back to common sense and say my biggest message to my son is always do what's best for you. You know, if this is the best that you can come up with and you don't necessarily have to go down this road, then pick the best. But he is going to make his own decision. And then we got a 14-year-old who's 3 years behind him. So pretty soon we're going to be going through that again. And our 14-year-old is going to be 15 in a couple of months. So, you know, this is just the parenting. And then, like, even with us, our mothers and fathers had to, you know, just trust that they did the right thing.
And it's a lot that our parents did. But we talked about this, how our parents raised us that we wanted to do different, you know, with our kids. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good question, too. When you look at what your parent did when you were growing up, do you say, I like that and I'm going to implement that in my parenting? Or I didn't like when my mama did that, so I'm going to do it different, you know?
Yeah.
You want me to answer that?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, for me, certain things with my mom, I follow to this day, and certain things with my mom, we butt heads on because I would tell her, like, I'm not, you know, I had to tell her when Milt was born that, you know, sure, you raised me, but you're not going to raise him. I mean, I hate to put it to you like that, but you're not raising him.
My mama right there. Yeah.
Right.
My mama love to call over and say, do so-and-so. No, mama, stay over there.
Right. You raised me the way you wanted to do it. Now fall back. And it's the same thing. Mom, and I asked her one day, I said, do you trust the way you raised me? Well, yeah. I said, well, why are you always trying to step in? If you trust it, fall back, put your hands up and fall back. When I went out, it's the same thing. When I went out to college and I was by myself, and when I went out to college, I went to major in business because why? That's what my mom she has an MBA. So I didn't realize I was just following. Then one day, because I kept praying, I said, I don't believe this is what I'm meant to do. I don't have any passion for this. I'm just doing it. And one day I sat in the auditorium and I prayed and I asked God, what am I meant to do? You know, show me what I'm meant to do. At that moment, a friend of mine came over and we were just talking, just running our mouth. And she started to speak to me about like something that was going on in her life. Just out of nowhere, people would always come to me and just do that. People I meet, the dude I met in Home Depot just started talking to me about his life. And so, you know, because that's what I'm meant to do. I'm meant to do that. So she's talking to me and I'm talking back to her. And in the middle of speaking to her, I had a vision. Like I left the room, like an out-of-body experience. And I saw myself and her talking, but we were in an office. She was on a couch and I was on another couch. And I had a notepad in front of me. And I realized at the moment I heard a word say, counselor. And at that moment, I went and changed my major.
Wow.
That very moment I went and changed my major. I knew exactly what I was meant to do. And I went back and I told my mama and them what I was like, Mom, I prayed about this and I know what I'm supposed to do. And this is what I'm going to do. My mom, my grandma, they both got pissed off at me.
I remember.
They both got pissed off at me. What? You crazy. How you going to make money doing that? And da-da-da-da-da. And I said, I don't know. I said, I prayed about it. And that's what I'm going to do. It got so testy between us. Like I was on the phone with both of them. Because I excuse my dog, but I love both of them a lot. So I would always confide and tell them things because they raised me and I respect them for that. And so when I went to them and they basically were battling with me, everything on the inside of me resisted what they wanted me to do. Because I told my mom, I said, at that moment, you always raised us to do what we're meant to do. And I said, I don't think you realized at that moment, I came to you and told you, Mom, I know what I'm meant to do.
Wow.
I said, you should have been like, jumping for joy. I said, but I think you got afraid and you allowed that to go in the way of your parenting. She allowed a little bit of guilt to jump in and say, I messed up. Instead of realizing, like, I imparted something good into my son. He's actually chasing what he's meant to do rather than out here just chasing a degree just because he want to get one. You know what I mean? And I hung up the phone in both their face, and you already know.
That didn't go well.
that didn't go well at all. In my family, you don't do stuff like that.
No.
But this is the thing this is the thing. They raised me so well to the point where I think they didn't realize that they raised me to honestly be my own man, because that's how they always wanted me to be. But then when you are your own man, it's a little bit of fear, because they're like, go, but I don't want to let you go, so I just keep this string on you. But then I'm taking the string myself and taking scissors out and snipping it. So every time they attach something to me, I snip it off. No, I'm good. If I need you, I'll turn around and ask you to come help me out. Otherwise, just stay over there. I got it. And I think with that, I now use that with my kids. Not so much to the point where I'm like, oh, just do what you want. But it's more so like I'm standing back and I'm watching, right? And I'm looking at him. I impart in him when it's time to impart. My daughter, she's at 7 months, but we impart into her the things we can at the moment. But I impart into him everything, right? And then I watch him. I just watch him, because I know he ain't gonna get it the first time around. And I re-guide, all right, now go for it, re-guide, and it's just a constant, just all right. And then finally, one day, he just does it. He just does it. Now, in some households, or the way I was raised, my mom was like that. She was patient with me, but then sometimes she'd be like, boy, you feel get your, it was a smack in the head, you know what I mean? Come on, get yourself together. And that's because my mom had to raise us alone, in a sense, right? Because my father passed when I was young. So she had a lot on her plate. Me looking at it as the fact that I have a wife, I have to look at and do something that I never saw done. So sometimes I have to calm myself down and realize I have a partner in this.
Wow.
I have a partner in this. Because in my head, I'm like, I got it. I got it. But I have to slow down and say, wait a minute. I got a partner in this. There's a reason why we have kids together. Because if it wasn't meant to be, then we wouldn't have them together at the moment. Right.
Wow.
So I even feel like that when some people say, well, my baby daddy, he sucked. Well, there's a reason why that kid came. I hate to say it, but I've had an opportunity to have 2 children before I got married, and both of them didn't come.
Wow.
So you see what I'm saying? It's that when it happens like that, you have to put yourself in a position to understand. Sure, you may have been raised a certain way, and that's what mama saw fit. Take the good and bad from everything, because I also took what I saw from other families. Right? When you're exposed to a lot, or even if you're not, you can take some from everything. You know what I mean? I put it like this. When God made grass, he trusted it just be grass. He set the order for it, and he just let it be what it is. Right? If something comes and alters that or messes with it, that's when it screws up the balance. My son, God made my son, so I have to say, okay, God, you made him. Show me how to raise him, because I don't know what to do with him. You put him here. You gave him to me. You trust me with him. So show me what to do. Instead of saying, son, you got to be this way. No. Okay, Lord, as I pray, God, help me as a parent, raise him the way that you want him to be. And that's just it. I think that's what we have to do.
Mm-hmm. I can hear him in the background.
Yeah, he telling me
You can open the door.
he want me to get him some water. His mama about to get him some water.
Because Noah say, open door.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, I think we've answered the question of authenticity, how you guys not only came together, but how you're walking this journey together. And I will leave you with the best advice in the world. Whatever you do it together. If that's success, you succeed together. If you fail together. That way, everything you do, you're always together. No one person can do it by themselves. Right. Everything has to be a unit. And that's it has to be, because you can't let anything in between that. Like nothing, nobody, my own mama, I don't care what it is. And the biggest thing is even yourself. Like you can't let yourself get in between your own marriage. People have that they do. They allow themselves to kill their own marriage, and that's not okay. So, yeah, man. Yeah. All right. So to end it off, one more time, go through it. Tell us how to get in touch with you. I'm also going to put everything in the description at the bottom of the video, or top on Facebook and on the bottom on YouTube. So it will be on YouTube. But just run it down for me and let us know again how to get in touch with y'all beautiful folks, man.
Okay, well, Real Rounded Consulting family, my name is Phil. I'm also known as Dalton the Producer. You can follow Dalton the Producer on Facebook at Dalton the Producer. You can also check out my inspirational page, which is called Inside Us. That's ENDSIDEUS, Inside Us. And also, if you are here in the Atlanta, Georgia area and you want to have an intuitive healing session where you learn guidance spiritually and you learn how to shut off your unconscious thoughts so you can reprogram it to be the person you want to be, you can also email my wife, Kiera, at KieraYogini@gmail.com. Her name, Kiera, is spelled with an I, Kiera. Not the conventional way. It's spelled with the E, not an I. KieraYogini@gmail.com.
Okay, everybody. So, you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Kiera Yogini, and email me as well at KieraYogini@gmail. Like you said, that's KieraYogini. If you would like to book a private committed yoga session or an intuitive reading session, I offer 30-minute, 45-minute, and 1 hour intuitive reading sessions, and 1 hour and 2 hour private committed yoga sessions where I will come to your place of establishment or your job, whatever. I will come to you and teach you yoga, and we do all intuitive readings over the phone. So that's KieraYogini@gmail.com, as well as Kiera Yogini at Facebook and Instagram.
Awesome. I have to say, personal testimony time. I've seen Kiera in action. I've heard Dalton in action. I tuned into his page. I heard an interview that she did with another gentleman. Can't remember that guy's name, but you remember the guy. I think you interviewed a gentleman. It was like a 20-minute interview that you did with a guy recently, or last week sometime, right?
He do so many interviews.
Okay, because I saw one.
Bedros Cooley.
Oh,
there you go. Yeah, that rings a bell. So, personal testimony. I've seen both of these folks in action, man. I will say that you can tell that they're in their element. So if you don't trust anybody else, I know sometimes we look at people and they're trying to make a profit off of what they do. I will tell you the truth. I pay for anybody's gift who's in their gift, because I honestly believe wholeheartedly if you're operating in what you're meant to operate in, then you should be able to make a living off of it. You got people making a living off of things that are bad for the community and bad for people, such as drugs and things of other natures. But if you have people who are honestly doing something for you, we sadly and honestly, we're in a capitalistic society, and that person has a means to survive. They have to live in this capitalistic society. So you must provide them with what it is they need in order to operate, or not just continue to operate in the gift. Sure, that person can give you all the readers they want, but man, remember, it's a human being, not a machine. They need water and food. So do not be shy to contact them via inbox or anything of that nature, or even if you want to contact them in the comment section. And make sure that you not only like and comment on this, but just tell us a little bit about it and allow us to respond to your questions or inquiries, man. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Coach's Corner. I'm Milton Spence with Well Rounded Consulting. God bless, and we out.